interesting one. Don't miss it. Join in. Yes, you're welcome to the Ed Innovator series. Today we are on to episode 18. Last week we looked at real world problem solving and innovation, and we looked at the graphical representation of how we can determine the level of real world problem solving and innovation happening in our classroom. Today is going to be a very short video. We are simply going to look at about 3 lessons, and you will get to code them based on what type of activity we have described to you is happening, and I'm sure you would have fun doing this. Yes, it's a trying time in Nigeria, but then our kids need to keep learning and need to keep learning right. Okay, we can't get it wrong in all aspects, can we? So yes, it's been a trying time, and it's my prayer that we would scale through this phase, because it is a phase and we will scale through by God's grace. And so on this note, I would like to welcome you again to episode 18. It's going to be very brief. This video is going to be very short, and it's going to be very informative. Join me. So last week we looked at 3 main questions, and these 3 main questions helped us to code our activities, as you can see on the decision 3. The first question was, is the main requirement having the children to be able to solve problems? The second question is it a real world problem? And the third question is the student required to actually innovate, create, provide a solution that has never existed before? And I'm sure that, of course, it was a very enlightening session for you. And we also looked at the rubric. Oh yes, I asked you to design a rubric. And so look at the screen. That is an example of what your rubric should look like. This would help you determine the level of real world problem solving and innovation happening in your classroom. So today we are going to look at 3 lessons, and I'm going to mention the 3 lessons shortly. Now, the first lesson is this. A set of children were required to make a boat, and the boat is expected to travel on water from one end of a basin to another end of the basin. They are expected to measure the distance the boat is able to cover, while traveling on the water, even though it's a paper model boat. So now, the children are required to increase the weight on the boat at each time it travels, and then measure the amount of distance the boat is able to cover, before it eventually soaks water and sink. So now, as these children measure the distance, they record it. Is this activity a code 1, 2, 3, or 4? I would like to hear from you. So now, if you said the answer was code 3, you would have been wrong. If you had said the answer was code 4, you would have been wrong. And yes, the answer is code 2. Why? The children are actually required to solve an academic problem. They are doing something called problem solving. They are solving a problem, but it is not a real world problem, and it's not targeted at a specific audience, and it does not involve getting different stakeholders to sign off or attend to the issue. So yes, it is a code 2 because it requires problem solving. Remember that code 1 is when the activity does not require problem solving. So let's take a look at the next anchor lesson. Code 2. No, lesson 2. So this is lesson 2, and we are looking at a memo that a year 4 pupil is expected to create on the Benin Kingdom. Beautiful, right? I love the Benin Kingdom. Do you? So yes, the student is required to ensure that she does a concise memo on the Benin Kingdom, the Benin Empire, and she's expected to target it at a particular audience and talk about everything she knows about the Benin Kingdom, their culture, the origin, the people, the tradition, the war, and she's expected to do that. And of course, she's expected to help the people she's targeted at designing this activity, probably also design something that has to do with maybe albums, pictures, and short videos. So I want to ask you, this memo on Benin Kingdom, designed by year 4 pupil, is it a code 2, 3, 4, or 1? Okay, so if you said the answer was a code 1, you would have been wrong. If you said it was a code 4, you would have been wrong. It is a code 3. Why? Because the student is designing and working on an activity that involves her actually solving problems. Also, it's a real world problem. We are talking about something that actually exists. It's about the Benin Empire, and she's writing to a particular audience, and they would get to use it for a particular purpose. But she's not the one innovating. She's not the one creating a video or the albums that they would use to, probably do a theatric arts or something. So she's not the one doing it. But yes, she has actually solved the problem, and she has also worked on a real world problem. Now, the third lesson, let's take a look at it. In the third lesson, we have a set of year 5 kids that just found out that it is so difficult for them to cross from one part of the road to where their school actually is located. Reason being that there is no zebra crossing on the road. So the year 5 pupils came together and they decided to design a project that would involve them writing to the school counselor, informing them of the need of a zebra crossing on their streets so that they can help children cross effectively. And they also took the time to even do a budget on how much it will cost to do a zebra crossing, and if they can actually volunteer to do the painting on the road by themselves. Beautiful, right? Now, at the end of the day, the school counselor actually agreed to this activity, this project, and the year 5 pupils successfully deployed the zebra crossing. Do you think they solved the problem? Yes. The activity revolves problem solving. The activity also is a reward problem, and the activity requires innovation. Brilliant. And yes, that is a code 4. So with what we have discussed today, I hope you now perfectly understand what it means to be on different levels of reward problem solving. Remember that the code doesn't determine the quality of lessons going in your classroom. It only helps you determine the level of real world problem solving and innovation happening in your classroom. And the truth is this: you really do not need to go straight to the code 4. You can go progressively to help the children build on this skill. Okay, I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. It was short, it was precise, but I'm sure it was fun for you. And I would like you to please ensure you implement in your classroom, either online or offline. And again, see you next week. Next week, we'll be taking a dive into a particular school, and we'll get to see a project implemented from end to end, and we will then code that activity based on what you have learned. Okay, thank you for joining. Bye.